Dear students, I welcome on behalf of Amity Institute of Organic Agriculture on the premises Amity University, Noida, Uttar Pradesh. In the class of soil fertility management, today we will discuss about integrated nutrient management and micro irrigation. How they are important factor for nutrient management. This is the last unit, fourth unit of integrated nutrient management. So it is very important to know what is INM or integrated nutrient management and what is micro irrigation. We will study the micro irrigation particularly in details. So the definition of integrated nutrient management. This is the combined use of organic and inorganic fertilizers and accompanied by sound cultural management practices in crop production. So when we talk about integrated nutrient management, we also talk about organic fertilizers as well as inorganic fertilizers. Not only one group but both groups, organic as well as inorganic, in proper proportions, in proper ratio, in definite ratio, and they are also accompanied by sound cultural management practices, sound agronomic practices for crop production. So this is an integrated system or combined system of individual applications, like we are combining the organic matters along with inorganic materials and also combining the other agronomic practices like cultural management, weed culture, weedicides, insect control, pest control, disease control, all sowing time, seed rates, technique, sowing technique, fertilizer application, method of fertilizer irrigation, all management practices are mixed. So there should be a sound cultural management practices for crop production. What is the need of integrated nutrient management? In arid regions where the rainfall is less than 50 centimeter per year, they are called arid regions. They have poor plant cover, hence they have less addition of plant residue in soils. Activities of microorganisms are lower due to inadequate moisture supply and high temperature. Weathering is slow. Salt accumulation due to poor leaching. If there is leaching problem, the salt will accumulate on the surface of the soils. The soil will become saline shortly. Natural circulation of nutrients is very low, or cation exchange capacity is very low to the soil. So in these problematic conditions, all are problematics like artificial or mineral fertilizers. So in the class of integrated nutrient management system, we study apply combination of nutrients like organic fertilizers, inorganic fertilizers, along with sound management, sound cultural management. Because only a single factor is not going to improve the conditions of crop productivity. We should take care of several things like water requirements, soil requirements, salinity, alkalinity, nutrient solubility, nutrient availability, cost of nutrients, and many other things. What are the factors of low fertility of soils? The natural factor is climate change or climatic conditions are natural factor, and man-made factor or faulty or improper crop production technology like selection of crops and crop rotations, soil salinizations, soil alkalinizations, insufficient residue and fertilizer use, losses of nutrients like leaching, volatilizations from soils, gaseous loss of nutrients from soils, that is also called volatilizations. So these type of losses are causing low fertility of soils. So what is the strategy behind integrated nutrient management system? The strategy is to maintain or adjust our soil fertility, which is losing day by day. The second strategy is plant nutrient supply to sustain desired level of crop productivity. We focus on cropping system rather than individual crops. We focus on farming system rather than individual fields like agriculture, like animal husbandry, like poultry, like fisheries. These are individual fields, but we focus on farming system. Farming system is a diversified farming. Does not prevent use of artificial fertilizers. Integrated nutrient management also apply artificial fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers to the crops due to very high demand of nutrients by the crops, by the multiple crops. We are taking several crops in a year, so we require high nutrients for the crop productivity. For that reason, we cannot completely abandon artificial or synthetic fertilizers. We should apply, but there should be a limit. Like we should limit 50% of fertilizers through artificial fertilizers and remaining 50% fertilizers through organic ones that can be best suited for integrated nutrient management. These are the essential nutrients. We already know there are 17 essential nutrients. CHO we do not need to apply because of photosynthesis and carbohydrate synthesis, carbon dioxide synthesis. So nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium are needed. They are called primary nutrients. The secondary nutrients are calcium, magnesium and sulfur. And the 8 micronutrients are boron, manganese, copper, zinc, molybdenum, chloride, iron and nickel. Nickel is the last one, which was included in 1987 latest. It is the 17th essential nutrient of plants. So plant nutrients, how they are important and how they are provided. Out of 17,000 leguminous species have been identified, only 200 are being exploited and the remaining have not been exploited or not utilized properly. So we need to justify the utilization of diversity of legumes, not particular ones only. Grain legumes fix up to 450 kg nitrogen per hectare per year. So legumes are very important part of crop rotations. They must be applied whenever our field is open or fallow. We should try to grow leguminous crops. All nitrogen requirement of grain legumes are not fulfilled by biological nitrogen fixation. So these require application of FYM and compost to mitigate the nitrogen demand. This can also supply 120 to 200 kilograms of nitrogen for the next crop. That is very important for the future crops. What are the sources of nutrients for crop production? We already know soil organic matter. There are soil reserves. There are biological nitrogen fixation. There are organic manures, mineral fertilizers, precipitation and irrigation water. All are very important sources of nutrients for crop production. What are the biological inputs for nutrient management? The biological processes are governed by soil microorganisms. They can decompose plants and animal residues. These organisms regulate nutrient flow in soil by immobilization, assimilation, nutrient and producing soils. These are the biological inputs for the nutrients. Symbiotic nitrogen fixation is taking place between bacteria like Rhizobacteria or Bradyrhizobium and the leguminous crops. Non-symbiotic and associative nitrogen fixation is done between Azoospermillum and the rice plant. Plant growth promoting Rhizobacteria, that is also abbreviated as PGPR. PGPR are capable of improving plant growth and soil fertility. Biological inputs for nutrient management. We apply soil microbes like phosphorus solubilizing bacteria. They may be bacteria or fungi. Both can improve phosphorus use efficiency. Vascular or vascular mycorrhiza. They help to increase the uptake of potassium, sulfur, phosphorus, sulfur and copper especially. So phosphorus is the main nutrient which is made available by phosphate solubilizing microorganisms. So advantage of biological nitrogen fixation. They are integral part of nitrogen cycling. They provide nitrogen nutrition to legumes and instead of artificial fertilizers. An economically attractive and ecologically sound procedure. They improve the quality and quantity of internal resources. So there are multiple roles of biological nitrogen fixation. They increase biological activity of soil. They reduce nitrogen loss by immobilization. They also improve performance of microorganisms such we have the microorganisms like azotobacters, azoospermillum, PGPR. These are very important for plant growth and nutrition. Crop specific biofertilizers are also used. Different crops have different rhizobia named after the crops. Now, management practices to improve plant growth and biological nitrogen fixation. We use high nitrogen fixing crops like fava bean. They can fix up to 350 kg nitrogen per hectare. Practice mixed cropping and intercropping. These are the management practices, and in integrated nutrient management, a sound cultural practices are required. So legume cultivation can improve crop yield by 3 tons per hectare, 0.5 to 3 tons per hectare. These are the organic inputs in the integrated nutrient management system: FYM, compost, vermicompost, poultry, sheep manure, slurry, crop residue, concentrated oil cakes, slaughterhouse waste. These are all sources of organic inputs. Inorganic inputs, we already know the sources of inorganic fertilizers like nitrogenous, phosphatic, potassium fertilizers and their dosage. Implementation of integrated nutrient management. They provide available knowledge for the development of suitable strategy for integrated nutrient management. It is realistic, attractive and informative friend. This will enhance the efficiency of biological, organic and mineral inputs for sustainable productivity in dryland agriculture. Now we will talk about micro irrigation. Micro irrigation deals with a small amount of irrigation and frequent irrigation, drop by drop irrigation or a sprinkler irrigation or a irrigation through emitters. So it is the frequent application of a small quantity of water on or below the soil surface as drops, tiny streams or a spray form through emitters or applicators placed along a water delivery line. System operating at low flow rates and low pressures. The low pressure and low flow rates are less than 1.5 to 2 bar or 2 barometers. The localized distribution of water normally in proximity of the plant or the root system. How the works? How micro irrigation works? There are network of distribution of pipes under low pressure in a predetermined pattern. The outlet device in micro irrigation is called emitter. No nozzle or other names are given. They are called emitters. The shape and design of the emitter dissipates the operating pressure of the supply line, and a small volume of water is discharged at the initial point. So there is water conservation because of a small discharge of water per hour. The discharge may be 7.6 liter per hour from a single outlet source to 11.4 liter per hour from another system like line source emitters. They can discharge 11.4 liter of water per hour. However, the single outlet emitters can discharge 7.6 liter of water per hour. These are the photographs. Similarly, subsurface drip irrigation. They are placed at a fixed depth of soil below the surface layer. They are placed in the subsurface region. This water is applied through emitters with discharge rates generally in the same range as surface drip, different from sub-irrigation where the root zone is irrigated by water table control. These are the photographs. The rhizosphere or root zone is, there is a irrigation system, micro irrigation system. So the micro irrigation system have multiple benefits like efficient and flexible, improved crop quality, higher yield, higher profits. They have water saving, less energy cost, higher fertilizer use efficiency, reduced labor cost, reduced soil loss. So they have multiple benefits. So they have been targeted, always preferred in irrigation system. The advantages are the depth is less than 15 centimeter. They can irrigate up to the depth of, they can irrigate more than 15 centimeter up to depth of. They reduce air humidity below the vegetation. Higher water irrigation efficiency. The drip irrigation has efficiency of 95% water use efficiency. On the other hand, flood irrigation, canal irrigation has efficiency less than 10%. We can also apply nutrients with irrigation water. They are called fertigation. Fertigation is the application of nutrients along with irrigation water. Possibility to use waste and wastewater through surface drip irrigation system is more. What are the disadvantages? Is high cost in the drip irrigation system. They are not useful in germination or rooting process. They require powerful filtering program. They have problem of clogging of drippers. They require flushing. To clean the pipelines. They always require flushing. Another set of irrigation is called bubbler irrigation. Bubbler irrigation is the application of water to flood the soil surface using a small stream or fountain. The discharge rates for point source bubbler emitters are greater than the other drip irrigation systems, and they can discharge 1 gallon or 3.785 liter per minute. A small basin is usually required to contain or control the water. The different structures are jet, mist and a spray system. Application of water by a small spray to the soil surface. They can travel through the air. They are referred as micro or mini sprinklers. They move in the air. They are called mini sprinklers. They operate at low pressure and apply water at a rate higher than drip, but typically less than 1 gallon per minute. They wet a larger soil surface area like a sprinkler irrigation. Jets have no moving parts, a sprinkler have moving parts. Micro sprinkler system include moving parts which enables them to discharge water over a larger area than the jets. These are the photographs of micro irrigation system. These are the advantages of micro irrigation system. Disadvantages: high cost, clogging, require flushing. This is the typical micro irrigation system layout. What should be the best and in which area which plots to be determined. So micro irrigation system is composed of 4 parts. Number 1 is control head. This is the first system. They can regulate the water quality, water quantity and other things. The second structure is called main lanes or sub-mains or manifolds. This is the middle layer between, this is the connecting link between control head and laterals. It is called main lines. The last one is laterals and emitters. They provide water to the plants. One more system is flushing system. For cleaning the pipes, flushing is required. This is the typical structure of micro irrigation system. You can see chemical tank, pump, backflow prevention device, system controls and different things. The control head. This delivers water from the source of the main line. The control head is made up of pumping station, filtration system, fertilizer and chemical injectors, control and monitoring devices, and several. Main lines receive irrigation water from the control head and deliver it to the laterals or emitters. Laterals and emitters are the last point of micro irrigation system, which are located on the lateral part of the body. Water flow from the manifold into the laterals. Emitters are used to dissipate pressure and dispatch water at a constant rate and uniformly from one end of the field to the other end. So micro irrigation can be of 6 types. Number 1 is drip lines. They have operating pressure 0.5 to 2 barometer. Systems with drippers, the operating pressures is 1 to 4 barometer and slow-meter. System with emitters, they have pressure 1 to 3 barometers and the flow rate is 6 to 30 liter per hour. This is highest among the others. System with capillary tubes, the operating procedure is 1 to 2.5 barometer. Flow rates 0.7 to 7 liter per hour. System with micro mini sprinklers are there. Subsurface drip irrigation is also other part of micro irrigation. So we should take care of the following things like suitability of crops, soil types and characters. If the soil is sandy soil, the diameter will be less. Diameter of wettability will be less. If the soil is clay loam soil, there should have highest range of radius or diameter. So which crops are suitable? The crops like vegetables or row crops are found suitable for micro irrigation. Soil type, clay soils have more benefit. Sandy soil require higher amount of discharge or fast discharge. If the topography is high, then there is chance of high return for micro irrigation system. This is wettability pattern. In clay soil, you can see the water movement is lowest and the diameter is maximum. In sandy soil, water movement may be higher and the mouth connecting is a smaller in diameter. When we study about irrigation scheduling, we also study about soil metric potential and soil water potential. In saline condition, the soil water potential is potentially contributed. When using metric potential, the contribution of salinity to water potential should be considered separately. A tensiometer has capacity to measure the moisture level from 0 to minus 80 kilopascals. That should be remembered. So all the three groups like coarse group, medium group and fine textured groups belong to the range of minus 10 to minus 20 kilopascal, minus 10 to minus 30 kilopascal. So these are the quality of irrigation water. They should have proper amount. More amount is injurious for the crops and for the animal beings as well. The biological factors are also important. The pH should be higher than 7, then we can chlorinate the water. Chlorination is the primary function to control the microorganisms in the food. So chlorination is the primary means for controlling microbial activity in irrigation water. So with this we come to the end of the lecture. Now we are open for discussion session.